Who out there has allergies? I'm actually partially allergic to cats, and I have 2 cats. Definitely have fall and spring allergies. My eyes just won't stop running, and have to take Benadryl and pass out. What's going on with allergies? Allergies are hypersensitivities to non-harmful antigens. We aren't supposed to start a specific immune response against non-harmful antigens. Sometimes we do, right? And that's what happens during an allergy. So the term hypersensitivity refers specifically to this immune response to a non-harmful antigen. Allergies are a specific type of hypersensitivity that involve a specific group of antibodies and cells called mast cells. We've talked about mast cells before. They're very closely functionally and structurally like a basophil. Mast cells are actually packed full of a chemical called histamine. And we've talked about histamine in this class before too. Histamine is a chemical that causes blood vessels to dilate or get bigger. When your blood vessels dilate and get bigger, that means you have more fluid leaking into areas like your nasal passages or your eyes. Histamine has the opposite effect actually on your bronchioles, your very small breathing tubes. Histamine causes your bronchioles to constrict, which means less air is getting through your respiratory system, which can be dangerous. The first time your body reacts to the allergen or the non-harmful antigen, you become sensitized to the allergen. What that means is that you've now created memory cells for the allergen. You also have circulating antibodies for the allergen, and some of those antibodies bind to your mast cells. Mast cells are like a ticking time bomb of histamine. Once they become coated with antibodies, it's sort of like removing the safety off a gun. This mast cell is ready to fire. If you should encounter the allergen again, the allergen binds to the antibodies coating the mast cells, setting off the bomb. My snap was not very loud. Setting off the bomb. Meaning you're going to be releasing lots and lots and lots of histamine, which is what's associated with our symptoms of allergies. Sometimes an allergic reaction can involve anaphylactic shock, which is a life-threatening condition. Anaphylactic shock occurs when mast cells all over the entire body are triggered. Now, typically, like with a pollen allergy in the fall, you're only going to activate mast cells that are close to the mucous membranes in your nasal passages. You're not going to be activating the mast cells that are in your digestive tract and in your bloodstream, right? You're only activating the local ones. But anaphylactic shock occurs when we activate mast cells all over the body. And this typically occurs when the allergen is introduced into the bloodstream. By getting into the bloodstream, the allergen can travel all over the body, activating mast cells all over the body. So you get body-wide histamine release, which means you get body-wide vasodilation. This basically increases the capacity of your blood vessels by about 10 times. But you don't have enough blood to fill all of these new big blood vessels that you have. So the blood pressure plummets. If the blood pressure drops, there's no blood coming back to the heart to be pushed throughout the body. Organs start to fail because they aren't getting a blood supply. How do you fix anaphylactic shock? That's where Epipens come into play. Epipens are basically a syringe with epinephrine inside of it. Epinephrine is a hormone, a chemical messenger that's found in our body naturally. And what it does is it tells our blood vessels to constrict, get smaller. It tells our bronchioles to dilate, get bigger, get more airflow through. Basically, it reverses the effect of histamine. Our blood vessels get smaller again, our blood pressure goes up, our bronchioles dilate, we can breathe again, right? It's a great way to combat anaphylactic shock. So injection of the epinephrine into the bloodstream of someone experiencing anaphylaxis can absolutely save their lives. While allergies are absolutely problematic, autoimmune diseases are another disease associated with the immune system that is problematic. We've talked about these a little bit before already. An autoimmune disease occurs when we have a loss of self-recognition. The causes of this include cross-reactivity. What that means is sometimes we make antibodies that suck. Sometimes our antibodies not only recognize the antigen, but they also recognize self-antigens. And this cross-reactivity will allow the antibody to attack our self-antigens. Some autoimmune diseases are caused when a normally isolated self-antigen gets into the bloodstream. So this can occur in the testes in males. So the sperm producing area in the testes is separated from the rest of our body immunologically. And that's because every sperm made by a man is unique. It will have unique things on its surface. These are not self technically, right? They are unique. So if those antigens from the sperm actually got into the bloodstream, they could be recognized as foreign and they could be killed. This would make, obviously, reproduction very difficult. And then some autoimmune diseases are caused by altered self-antigens. So certain drugs and some viruses can actually cause changes in our genetics that will result in changes in our own self-antigens that make it so certain antibodies that we have might now be able to bind to those self-antigens. Examples of autoimmune diseases include rheumatoid arthritis, type 1 diabetes, lupus, psoriasis, multiple sclerosis. There are many examples. Immunodeficiency diseases occur when our immune system stops working. Examples of immunodeficiency diseases include severe combined immunodeficiency disease and acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. In both of these cases, the immune system stops working. Without an immune system, there can be no specific immune response. You can't ever make antibodies. You can't fight off infectious agents. Very life-threatening. Acquired immunodeficiency syndrome, or AIDS, is caused by the HIV virus. HIV is human immunodeficiency virus. HIV selectively kills helper T cells. So my question to you is this. If HIV is just killing helper T cells, why can't individuals with AIDS make antibodies? So go ahead, think about this for a second, pause the video, then come back and press play to get your answer. If you said, because helper T cells are needed to activate B cells, and we need to activate our B cells to get antibodies, you're correct. There can be no specific immune response without the helper T cells. So unfortunately, individuals with AIDS will often die from opportunistic infections. So these are infections that normally we would fight off using our specific immune response, but because they don't have a specific immune response, they can't fight the infection. Most individuals that die of AIDS are actually dying of types of pneumonia. A lot of times it's a pneumonia that's actually caused by a fungus, and rarely under normal circumstances do we get a fungal type of pneumonia. And I forgot to mention this earlier, but that severe combined immunodeficiency disease, if you've heard of Bubble Boy, that's what Bubble Boy had. And that is actually a genetic disease, and they're hoping to cure this using genetic engineering.